Welcome again to another new episode, and today we're going to look at once you've left that job or you've been laid off, what does that reveal about the soul of your organization or your workplace? In essence, what layoffs or getting sacked reveal about the soul of your workplace. And this was motivated by a LinkedIn post I saw from one of my colleagues who 3 years ago, the company I was working for, the organization I was working for, was closing the offices, and she, like hundreds of us, were let go. And she did do a post that went viral on LinkedIn. Actually, it had thousands of likes and thousands of comments. In it, she was lamenting that she not only has suffered excruciating lack of resources to take care of her family, but her greatest betrayal was a loss of friends and family, colleagues that she had placed in a special place in her heart, and how quiet most of them went through. And she described the shock, not from the layoff itself, but that deafening silence that followed that day, the few months after she had been laid off. And her biggest questions was this relationship that I nurtured for years in this organization real? Was I naive to believe that I have friends, family, colleagues I can depend on? Because they had hung out together to take teas, evening drinks. They have visited each other's homes. They had gone to each other's funerals. So every ingredient of a great relationship, a connection, had been reached within this practical experience at work. So I thought about doing something about that to help you, my viewer or listener, about what is the diagnosis and why does something like this happen. The truth is, in organizations, in places where we work, the relationships that are in these organizations are transactional. This is a fact, and my personal view. Remember that a job or a role is a commercial transaction. Labor for money. That is it. These euphemisms of, oh, you're family here, or you're my friend, it's a language, I think, that is a corporate culture veneer to encourage higher productivity and loyalty. But I think beneath the financial strain, it dissolves so fast. When my company was closing down, it's the management, the board, did not care how we are going to survive in the coming months. They tried their best by giving us a severance package, a contract extended for 3 months as we try to look for a job, but eventually they had to close down. So these relationships collapse. The idea of family and friends, or that we care so much under financial strain or financial pressure, can fail. So this is what I'm saying, that if you want meaning, then volunteer to a soup kitchen or a food distribution center. You want some friends, join a club near your home that you interact with every day, whether it's an athletics club, a gym membership, a church. You want money? Get a job. Simple. Do not overextend your expectations to work. Rather look at a job as a transaction. So, okay, here is a fact. The silence sometimes is not always malicious. And I have 3 reasons I feel that sometimes this silence could be stemming from. One of them is fear. So assume that you work for this huge organization. The question that a lot of people ask is, am I next? Because layoffs normally create a climate of fear where your colleagues or the people have to keep their heads down, because they have a feeling that if I complain, if I bring up an issue, then I can be contacted to be laid off. And even reaching out to laid off colleagues can feel a risky act in itself, or some act of defiance, which can be seen as, you're not behaving well. So fear could be one of the reasons. So if you see a few of your family and friends that you had developed over years at work going quiet suddenly, one of the reasons could be fear. 2 is the awkwardness and guilt that comes from people genuinely don't know what to say. They feel guilty because they still have a job and you do not have a job. And some actually decide to avoid this topic altogether, which can be translated as silence. So another reason could be that awkwardness and guilt that comes because I have a job, you don't. You laid off a few months ago as much as a friend, so I feel guilty. And then the third and the most prominent one is corporate obedience, where people can be stupid and obedient, because sometimes the HR function can overtly or not overtly discourage contact with former employees, and this could be something not outright but an implied reason depending on which company it is. Remember one thing, that friendships at work are proximity friendships, bonds forged by a shared space, a shared project, a shared task, or even a shared quote-unquote enemy. In this case could be a difficult project or even a competitor. Once this proximity is gone, the foundation of that relationship crumbles. So here is to looking forward. This will be my advice in the focus of today's episode. There are 3 things you need to do, to protect yourself from that awkward silence that takes place after you've been laid off from the organization. One is understand the clarity of the crisis. A layoff is a life-altering event that acts as a filter, revealing who your true friends are. While I can tell you for sure it is painful, this knowledge that you're going to get from this experience is invaluable. Why? You at least know who your true friends are. Number 2, I am giving you the mandate to diversify your social portfolio, something that is thematic in this episode, in this YouTube channel, which is focused on life and work balance, is that increase your social portfolio. The idea of having your colleagues or work being the source of your life does not lead to synergy. Rather, focus on having friends at work and having life outside work. When I talk about social portfolio or diversifying your social portfolio, the key lesson is not to avoid building relationship at work, but to avoid making your work your only source of social connection and self-worth. Just as you diversify financial investments, you must also diversify your social and emotional investments. Very, very crucial. The third and the last thing that you're going to do to avoid that awkward silence that comes from a layoff is you must own your own network. Don't be a passive participant. The lesson for you is to understand that you are the driver, you're the primary driver for your long-term professional relationship. Again, you are the primary driver for your long-term relationship. What do I mean here? You must be the one to initiate contact after you or others leave. So if you've stayed behind or you still are lucky to have a job today at work where your colleagues have been laid off, be the one taking the initiative to reach out to them. Or if you've been laid off, take initiative to reach out to your former colleagues and say hi. Okay, so these are the three things you can do to manage yourself once the layoff has opened the soul of your workplace. Okay, the clarity of crisis is number one. This is where you can filter who your friends are. Number two is to diversify your social portfolio. Also, number three, and the last one, is to make sure that you are the one who reaches out. In essence, you must own your network. Okay, so to conclude today's episode, I want to remind you, say these words, that modern careers require a clear-eyed understanding of the difference between friendly colleagues and true friends. Okay, build warm relationships for sure at work, but do not anchor your emotional well-being and co-friendship, okay, within the structure of the corporate. Rather, develop that outside that corporate structure. Okay, anchor your emotional well-being outside your work. Anchor your friendships outside your work. It doesn't mean you have to be an annoying or someone who is not working to create good relationships within the organization, but do not anchor your life on your work. Okay, these things I've told you today, this resilience, this development of friendship outside work is a superpower that will be important for you in the world of work today. Thank you so much for joining me today and listening to me. I hope today's episode was able to open something in your life to understand how to develop yourself should you be in a situation where you'll be laid off and the people you thought were friends go quiet suddenly. And if you have any other idea, please go to the comments and, as usual, help others. Until next time.